Yeah, man, it's the 25th of January 2023, and in this video, I'm going to go over a lot of things about your devices and gang stalking, some of the things to look out for, and kind of the right pathway to be on to for us to figure out some of the things that can help us and just put us in the right direction. So I've been dealing with this for a decade, that I've known about for a decade. Who knows before that? Before that, it was pretty much flip phones and like real laptops and stuff. But since then, we've gotten the smartphones, iPhones, uh, iPads, and a lot of different kind of devices with smart devices. And any one of those kind of devices can be hacked and used by gang stalkers with broadcast stuff. And even as far as my Pioneer touchscreen stereo, the CD player that I installed in my truck some years ago, they took that over, and I've not even been able to use it since then. It was fine for a little while, and then what happened? They filled up the device list, and it won't let me delete any of them, and they use it for a Bluetooth, mobile Bluetooth network, basically, whenever I'm in the truck, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I've tried everything, and I've made videos about it. It's one of my more popular videos, probably like 10,000 plays, and it gets consistent. But anyway, so I've had problems with MacBooks, regular MacBooks, MacBook Pros, Windows computers, PCs, laptops, Chromebooks, um, iPhones, iPads, Windows phones, obviously Android phones, and even Kindles, Amazon's own thing, but which really it runs off of Android with just a little bit of a different interface. And like I said, my Pioneer car stereo and anything else that I've ever been able to use. I even had a Samsung baby monitor with a little screen and a camera, and I would put it like in my window to watch like outside if anybody pulled up or something like that. And they would literally just go in and there would be like broadcast stuff all on the screen that I'm watching, or they would just completely disconnect it anytime I wanted to use it. They can do all of this stuff. So some of the things that are really bothering me lately is my phone, my iPhone, and it gets very hot sometimes. And so I can tell that there's something going on. And I noticed that when it's getting very hot, no matter where the battery level is, when it gets very hot, the brightness stops halfway up. So that means it gets brighter, 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 and then halfway it stops getting brighter and it's halfway bright. And then the rest of the way does nothing. And that would typically be something that would happen if you had power save mode turned on. It would limit that brightness like that. And but if my phone's sitting at 90% and plugged in, it still does that. And I noticed that it was doing that. And a lot of times I'll be on the device looking at it literally and just see it click to a lower brightness. Suddenly, it'll just switch to a lower brightness instantaneously. And like I said, it's not when the battery's low or anything else. And the phone will be very hot. And so I started kind of looking into that a little bit. And so gang stalkers, when they're doing what they call live streams, I don't know if you guys as gang stalkers are the same as mine, but mine are braggers, and they typically like to talk about their live stream. They're always like, my live stream this, my live stream that, and they like to come on and do live streams. So there might be a situation where 20 different gang stalkers are doing live streams of your life. And I'm going to get into the privacy violations of that and then some of the even worse parts of it in a few minutes in this video. So, but I started looking into streaming, and streaming affects the GPU, which is the graphics processing unit, and the CPU. So both of the different type of processors in any device are affected by the streaming. And so when a bunch of different gang stalkers are doing like the streaming, the live streams, and when I say the streaming, they could be using your camera, which I'll get into that, but they could also, they just could be using broadcast from a broadcast view. And when I say a broadcast view, I mean, say I have a reflective surface right here, or not a reflective, nothing at all right here. However they want to do it, they have these capabilities. So they can broadcast some waves, EMF waves, which are reflective, at a certain frequency, and then receive that back. And that can be basically a reflective type of video. So they can see you from EMF broadcast waves like a camera, and especially better off of more reflective surfaces. So the more reflective a surface is around you, the better they can receive a higher quality image back from just broadcast without using a camera. So everybody's looking for the secret remote cameras, and I used to do the same thing. I was looking everywhere in my house for the secret cameras. How do they see me? How do they know? And they know because they don't need cameras. And if they broadcast like a hologram broadcast, which is very difficult for the human eye to see, but if the circumstances are right for you to see them, you'll notice they have these black, silvery, shiny eyes. And that's like the way that they can see. And they can receive back a view. And when I say that, they're actually living as that broadcast. And I use the example of the movie Avatar all the time because it's the most accurate and easiest way to get people to understand that don't really know what I'm talking about. So like in the movie Avatar, when he laid in the capsule, the glass capsule thing, and put on the whatever, and he connected to the avatar, through broadcast, okay? The physical being, the avatar, the blue guy, right? He connected to that, and he was able, in his mind, right, he was living as that. Now that was really, that was supposed to really be happening, so he really was physically living as that creature, that physical being. And neural monitoring and mind control broadcast is exactly that way, except the whole capsule is minimized down to a headset thing that they wear that's about the same as me wearing this little hat right here. And the thing that they're connecting to, rather than it being a physical flesh being, is just a broadcast made of waves. So this hologram broadcast, and they can broadcast as Santa Claus or any other figure that they want, but typically a gang stalker will broadcast as themselves. And they can see you from that broadcast. So when I say they're living as a broadcast, you could have a hologram broadcast that you can't even see standing right next to you, and they can see you. And I'm going to get into the privacy invasions of that in a few minutes in this video. So anyway, they can broadcast a hologram broadcast that they're connected to, living as, or they can just broadcast waves at different points around you, and from reflective surfaces, or at a lower quality just from the waves themselves, receive a image back and a streaming video of you in real time. And that's one of the ways that neural monitoring works, and it's one of the more disturbing ways that people don't really understand how that works. So anyway, when it comes to your physical device, they can connect with your physical device through broadcast and through Wi-Fi and their satellite broadcast. They could do all kinds of things. So they're able to connect through your device and use your hardware and your services. And from there, they can live stream remote neural monitoring and whatever, in an EMF broadcast video of, they'll be able to see their broadcast and you, so they can see the physical realm, the wall and the table here and everything that's around you, but broadcast can also see broadcast. So if there's a group of hologram people standing around you and a EMF broadcast reflection signal that they're receiving on a certain frequency or something like that, it could be able to see all of them and all of the actual physical hard things, flesh, materials, walls, and anything like that. And they could also see waves. So they're able to do all of that, and then they're able to use your phone, your devices, as the medium to put that out there to basically distribute their EMF broadcast, live stream gang stalking. And that's the fact. That's absolutely what they do. And they're doing it all on our devices, on our services, and everything else. So that leaves the door open for us to become knowledgeable enough to defeat them. Okay, because I understand the technology, and I've talked to 1,000 of you guys out there. And really, over the last 7, 8 years that I've been public, I've talked to 1,000 or probably way more, but of you guys. And I understand from my personal experience and from hearing from all of you guys that we all deal with some very similar things. And a lot of people say, "Oh, my situation's different," but people are different. And I'm not saying me and you are different. We are, but I'm saying gang stalkers are different, and the tactics that they use are different. But the technology, the set of capabilities that they have is the same. Neural monitoring is the same. Mind control, neural monitoring, EMF broadcast, it's the same. It's one system, okay, or multiple systems, but they have the same capabilities, and how they use it can differ greatly. But that's, obviously we're going to have some different experiences, but ultimately we're all dealing with the same thing. And I've run into people that I know. There was a lot of people that betrayed me and that I knew personally that ended up with neural monitoring. And I've seen the process of people starting to learn how to use virtual devices and to deploy virtual machines through cloud stuff and on other devices physically, and how to use all of that. And that's how they hide neural monitoring, through virtual devices. And a lot of them use modified applications, which they would call their app or their virtual. So I've seen it happen, and I've ran into people since then that I believe are not really gang stalkers, but a lot of people have access to neural monitoring. You wouldn't think so, but it's absolutely true. I'll stand by that. It's my word. I promise. I promise it's true. A lot of people have neural monitoring, and they're not quick to want to give it out to people. Now, some of these gang stalkers, they give it out to their dopehead friends and stuff like that, but you're talking about one group of people that are very demented, okay? And a lot of them are just drug addicts, and they don't think very clearly, and they've fallen into this lifestyle, and they're very addicted to mind control in general, and it would be a very addictive thing. So if you wanted to feel the sensation of being smarter than you actually are, it'd probably be greater than any drug, and that's something that they're addicted to. And that's why if you're in the same situation like me and you've been gang stalked and you've got people that are connected to you and talking over broadcast, artificial telepathy, and all of those things, then you've experienced that they're a bunch of idiots. They really are. And, but still, it's not something that's just given to everybody, and they keep a really tight wrap on it. And but it is extensive, and the reach is wide. Okay, there's a lot of people that have neural monitoring. So when you hear these guys saying, "Oh, only the FBI can have that," or "No way that normal people can have that," that's a lie. They don't know, and I promise you, swear to it, that normal people can get access to neural monitoring, and whether or not they become a gang stalker depends on who they are and how they are and all of those things. So, but back to the devices and stuff like that. So the brightness thing and my phone getting very, very hot is a telltale giveaway. I know that there's a bunch of people that are on my neural monitoring, and they're using my physical device and my services to run their EMF broadcast live streams of gang stalking. And my brightness stops at halfway up. Whether they're trying to conserve, I think pretty much they're just trying not to overload the whole thing in general, because I did a little research on all of these topics. So let me just run over the topics that I'm going to go over right here. So streaming, GPU usage, the brightness and GPU usage, the GPU capabilities, what we can do, and I haven't found a way, but I want to see what we can look into. It's not something I could find in a quick search. I spent a few minutes on each topic trying to see what information I could find, and something to show the processes of like a process viewer that you could find for your CPU. It's a lot more difficult to find something like that for a GPU. And GPUs are very capable, and gang stalkers are perfectly equipped to use resources like that to try to keep it out of the mainstream of processes going on. Everything's hidden. Everything that they do is hidden. And so we got to find ways to unhide it. Privacy. Secret camera cases, by the way, is a felony if you're nude. And it's a felony if you're like in the process of getting nude. So if you're undressing and somebody's like got a secret camera hidden around, that's a felony. All right. And you tell me the difference if they're using a physical camera that they have wired to be able to receive that some kind of way, or if they're using broadcast to receive it wirelessly. What's the difference? The end result is they're getting that video stream. And so what gang stalkers do 100% of the time is felony. Because they watch you in the shower. Yeah, they watch you getting undressed. Yeah, they watch your everything. They can see your passwords. They can see you typing it in. They can see you seeing it. They can see what your mind processes from your eyes. If you close your eyes and imagine something else, they can see that image. They can receive that. They receive your neurological processes at the same time as being able to watch you in the most invasive ways. Criminal cases. Just to run over these real quick, I saw some of the penalties for hidden cameras, like somebody hides a camera and they're watching you. I've seen like 5 year. If you type it in on Google, you'll find people that got sentenced to 5 years. You'll find that some states have like a maximum sentence of 10 years. You'll find that some places associate that with like pedophile probation, and it is definitely a sexual misconduct at the very least. So theft of services, hacking, some of the penalties for that, the possibility of lawsuits. These are things that I want to talk about in this video. I was looking how to find hidden stream stuff. Like if somebody's using my device to stream something, how could I find that hidden stream? And I wasn't able to find anything, but that's pretty typical when you're looking at advanced hacking stuff. You're not just going to type it into Google and see how to do it. But you get deep enough, you will find out how to do it. And if you learn how to do it, then you'll obviously you'll know how to figure out they're doing it and how to catch them doing it and how to stop them from doing it and how to hold them accountable for doing it. So the theft of services, the finding the stream, device temperature, I've talked about that a little bit. Remote camera access, iCloud, remote administration, virtual machine deployment. So all of these things are things that I'm looking into because like I said, this is the doorway for us to actually gain the knowledge to pin them up, okay? Because I'm being gang stalked through broadcast, remote neural monitoring. Have you tried calling the police? Have you tried calling the government or making reports? I have. I've reported to every government agency, including FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, you name it, all of them. State Department, the local GBI, when the state that I live in, Georgia, which by the way, I'm like at least 1,000 miles from there and nothing's different. If anything, it's worse, just like it was when I was all the way out on the West Coast. It was even worse because they know that you can't do anything about it. They're back in Atlanta doing all this horrible torture to me with broadcast, and I can't do anything about it. Which, by the way, I did an embarrassing video the other day about this sexual assault and how it's like molestation and almost like broadcast rape, really. And I put that video out on a couple of my channels, and so far it's been like 4 days of nonstop attacks in that way. And they like to prove to me that, hey, you want to do a video about it? Hey, we'll do it even more. Okay, but hey, I'll do more. I can do more. I can do a lot, and I'm building up to greater things that I can do about these people. Excuse me. So with all of those subjects, though, ultimately, there's three big players that are going to end up, I feel like in the future, they're going to end up liable for a lot of things, and that's Apple Computers, Microsoft, and Google. Those are the three big players when it comes to devices. If you got a device, it's most likely associated with one of those three. And all of this device infiltration and like iCloud administration and secret streams and remote camera access and all of this type of stuff, sure that they know about it. Okay, all the big data and the data collections and all of that stuff, they know that this is going on. And so it's a huge conspiracy or scandal, if you will, in not only American society, but worldwide. This is a huge scandal against, and it's crime against humanity. And it's probably worse than any other crime in history as far as like hurting people. And for it to be like a big secret under the wraps. And if you're not in the circle, then you're out of the circle. And that's what I'm starting to realize, that, being in the circle must mean that you kind of got to look away as people do, to whether you're doing it or not. If you're just going to turn everybody off from your neural monitoring and go about your life privately and safely now because you got neural monitoring, then you still need to turn the blind eye to all of the horrible things going on with it. And I understand, because it's greater than one person. If you want to live, you probably just shut up and not say very much. But having gone through this for a decade now, it's very hard for me to imagine signing up for letting these guys get away with what they've done to me. And so for now, I continue to be out of the circle and tortured daily. But like I said, those three companies, Apple, Microsoft, and Google, they're going to be probably the biggest losers in this thing long term. And who knows if the world will go into complete chaos and mayhem and governments overthrown and who knows what else. But it's mind control and neural monitoring broadcast is a very real thing. It's been around, and it's not confined to the top secret agencies of governments and stuff like that. This is in the streets. This is in the streets as much as a Glock 9 is in the streets. It's out there. So I looked up GPU stuff. This GPU does affect streaming quality. So, if you got 10 people, doing live streams on your device of neural monitoring stuff, yeah, your GPU is going to get hot, and it's going to be very, very used. And that kind of explains why they turn the brightness down on my device and limit the brightness when they're doing that, because they want to make sure that the phone doesn't completely overheat with the power consumption and the GPU getting real hot and all of that. But brightness does not affect the GPU, but it does affect the power a lot. And the GPU also affects the power. So does the CPU. And those are things that are, probably the screen brightness, the GPU usage, and the CPU usage. Those are the three things that are contributing to your phone or device, any device. Like on my laptop, the fan starts running all crazy, and that's when I know that if I'm not doing anything on my device here, my MacBook Pro, and suddenly the fans are roaring, which MacBooks aren't known to have roaring fans, but my fans get roaring sometimes, and that's when I know that they got 20 people doing live streams from my device. And whether they're using the real camera or just receiving a EMF broadcast signal for the view or whatever, they're doing live streams over my device and over my services. And so it's criminal. It's criminal. Even if you just take away the craziness of remote neural monitoring, what they're doing is criminal, and ultimately is very likely to be provable if you know what you're doing, which, by the way, is why I decided to go formally to college for computer programming. I'm in my second year now, and I've really looked forward to some of the knowledge that I'll gain with that, and I'll probably continue to go. It's hard to go to school all the time and work and be gang stalked and all that. I know it's hard, but I don't really have a choice. I either do this or that I just decide that they can have my life and ruin every moment and steal the quality away from me and torture me and diminish the length of my life. All of that. So I got to fight. You got to fight too. And if you're computer illiterate or tech savvy or whatever, I don't care. That's, who is that didn't study to be? So study to be. All right, so kernel privileges. I was reading some stuff, and a lot of things pop up with like kernel privileges, and that's when somebody gives themselves kernel privileges or something like that, then they can administrate over you. So somebody can have a virtual machine hosted on your device or a modified application on your device that they're using as an administrative authority over the device. All they got to do is give themselves certain privileges, and these gang stalkers can get into everything, and they can definitely do all of that. Low power mode, if you cut that on, it's going to make your screen less bright. It's going to make your CPU and GPU less capable. But if you were to go in with the coding into like the OS or iOS, whatever, and allocate a certain amount of those resources, the power and the GPU, CPU functions to a certain application or a virtual machine hosted on the same physical device, and then limit the end user, then that could make it appear as if like it could make your experience as if you're in low power mode, just so they can allocate half of that resources to themselves. And that's something that they typically would do. You might notice that like if the fan's running on a laptop or like on my device, it starts to get real hot on my iPhone. It gets real hot. And then when I'm like scrolling, because I'll be on like Robinhood or some kind of application, and I'll be scrolling around and it starts skipping and getting slow, and the touch ain't working real good. And they're using up all my processing power because they've limited me to what I can do. And they got basically too many. Like I always say, any is too many, but if they have one person accessing my stuff, that's too many. But when they really actually get too many, for me to be able to use my device without it being obvious that there's something else going on, they have too many people doing live stream stuff. I'm trading and doing stuff on like financial apps and stocks and stuff, and everything's skipping around and it's getting slow. And my device is hot. And they love to live stream all of that, and if you've been on the stock market for the last year and a half, they're loving it. I'm losing money like everybody else, but I'm getting a lot better at it. But they like to live stream that. Look at this idiot losing money like everybody else. But I have to turn my device off and start over. Just turn it off and turn it back on, reboot, and then hopefully not too many of them come back on to start their live streaming again, where my phone gets unbelievably hot and my pages won't scroll or anything else. So they're using up everything. They're using up all my resources, the bandwidth for the service, the processing power for the device itself, the power from the battery itself, all of that. They're using up all of that. So I noticed that the GPU processes are not something that you could pull up App Store and get something to show you CPU processes. But GPU processes, I found one app, and then I don't know if they corrupted it or it just doesn't work, but every time I click on it, it would just blink back off. It didn't work. So, and that was supposed to show GPU processes. So maybe they're trying to prohibit me from being able to see that, or maybe the app was just bunk in the first place. I don't know. But I haven't found one. I haven't looked extensively, but these are all just subjects that I'm touching on, so you guys can kind of have some direction and a better understanding of what's happening and how this all works. So let me talk about some of the criminal things. 5 years. I've seen people that got 5 years sentences. I've seen some states have like a 10-year max. I've seen it's a felony if like you're naked or if you're undressing, if like remote camera access is what I'm talking about, like secret camera stuff. And it's extremely common for a gang stalker to have remote access to your camera. That's perfect for their live stream. They don't even have to use a lower grade broadcast view of you, so they can get a HD view of you. All right. And just for a quick little thing, if when I start thinking about things, like I start thinking about all of this and writing these little topics down and stuff I wanted to research, they start attacking me so bad and violently because they're trying to sidetrack me from all of that. And they'll be like all in my neck with their little hologram broadcasts penetrating my neck. I'm tasting electricity. I feel like I'm going to fall over dead from an instant rupture of my lymph nodes or something. And it's torture, and it's attempted murder is what it really is. But, I saw a guy in Maryland got 20 years for having a hidden cam, like that voyeur type stuff. I saw a case, I did a Google search, and I saw one case where a guy got 8 years of sex offender probation for watching secret videos from, accessing your cameras or hid a secret camera or something like that. So when it comes to these type of crimes, all right, excluding remote neural monitoring, which is very unlikely to get recognized by our judicial system, cause the world to go into collapse and chaos about this mind control stuff and the way it broadcast works. But excluding that, when it comes to computer crimes and internet fraud and stuff like that, there's three main categories. Theft of information, which is where they would just be able to receive or view your information unconsensually, without permission, by gaining access to your device. And if you know gang stalkers, they have all the access to all your devices and everything. Another thing would be theft of services, where obviously they're using your physical hardware and your connectivity to be able to do things over the internet through a service that you're paying for. That's theft of services. And another thing is just hacking in general, which can really come down to all of that, how they're getting into your stuff. Hacking could be like if they come into your device and start deleting stuff, and these are all things that my gang stalkers are guilty of on like a daily basis. Still, even now, as much as I've talked about this, it's no big deal for them to go into my device and delete something. It's a quick story. One particular gang stalker, and I'll say his name, Tony Bruce, is a guy that was associated with the person that has possession of my neural monitoring. And then about a year and a half ago, I had a situation where I was on Facebook and I searched up his name, and he had 3 or 4 profiles, and I clicked on one of them, okay, and it came up as this Spanish name, but it was one of his profiles, okay. But then when I clicked on it, it came up as this Spanish name. When I clicked on it, it had the like a regular Facebook profile, but integrated into it as if it was some portion of his property was some of my groups that were like on the very top, like integrated in as things you could choose on this particular profile that he had created. And it was, I got it all on screen recording on one of my Android, my Galaxy Android, Samsung Galaxy. I got it all on screen recording, and then I was like, this is it. I could see that they are using my accounts, and they've created a custom Facebook profile that's not even able to be created that way by normal Facebook settings or profile creation, any of that. This is something that had to be done through advanced coding techniques with like going into Facebook stuff. And it also would have had to have had some sort of permissions written in there to be able to use my possessions, my if you have an account, that's your property. So my online property, my content, which was my group and my pages and all of that stuff. And when he had on his profile, those were integrated in as like posts almost, not posts, but like at the top where you would have like, the your information and stuff like that. It was integrated into the profile. It wasn't something where he shared a post. It was integrated into the profile, and they were my properties, my Facebook properties. Okay, and then as soon as I got that screen recording, they were on my Android accessing remotely and deleted the video. And so I quickly got a recovery app, and I was able to recover the video. Meanwhile, I had a second camera running that's not no connectivity. It was just a basic camera, old Sony camera. I had that running, like showing that I'm recovering this video. And I didn't go into the video and show that what the video was again, but you could see I recovered the video, and then you could see that the video got deleted again. And at that point, I'm like, okay, the file's there. They keep deleting it because they know that this is big. It's and also what it shows is that they're over my services or whatever, accessing my device illegally and deleting this evidence, which is a huge piece of evidence. It shows that all of the things that I've talked about with gang stalking, how they use Facebook and your social media, and how they can have things that you can't normally see. And I don't know how they had it set up that I was able to find it in this particular case, but a lot, like Facebook has got so much stuff on there that you can't type in and search unless you're like on a certain type of platform where you can have access to those type of things. And what it was is they were so deeply using my device that somehow it mixed up and I was able to access this stuff and see it. And the fact that I got that screen recording was a big, huge deal. And I still had the device. I turned it off right then. I said, okay, I got it, but obviously I can't keep it. And that's a huge problem with information and evidence that you can gain against them, is they just go and delete it. They just go and delete it. They're not going to allow you to have evidence against them. And this was a huge deal because it showed all of those things that that I talk about. It was proof of many, many things. Remote access to Android for Google, access to my Facebook and administration of devices and accounts, and deleting my property, deleting files. So hacking and theft of services and theft of information and all of these things that are punishable by $250,000 or 20 years in prison. That's what I could find online. Whether that's state or federal, I'm not sure. And I don't care. But yeah, they definitely deserve to go to prison. And all of these type of things are things that, see, here's the thing, right? These things ultimately would lead to remote neural monitoring and gang stalking. But at the surface, they are every kind of internet crime you can imagine. Now, so what I do, I turn the device off, and I still got it. And, it's safe as it can be. I've never turned it back on, and it's been 1.5 years because I know that they're trying to just get rid of the file. And it's a huge piece of evidence, this file. But also what it does, it gives me the insight, right? And I'm sure that somehow with the right kind of subpoenas or something, that Facebook would have to cough up the information showing how this person's profile has my groups and pages integrated into it. And it was all part of gang stalking. And they create their own version, their gang stalker version, which will be like your version plus their version. So it's like your version plus whatever's on top of that, their version, that the normal people, us, we can't see their version. We can only see the base version, not the deluxe gang stalker version. But that's how they operate, over social media stuff like Facebook. So when I say the Google, Apple, and Microsoft, let me add Meta into there as one of the main liabilities when it comes to gang stalking and all these infiltration of your devices and mind control, all of that stuff. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And when I'm feel like I'm comfortable or when I'm in the position to be able to obtain that information from my device or subpoena these documentations from Facebook, and Google and Apple, all of them have the same situation. And, ultimately, if I figure out how to do all of that, they're going to be trying to throw neural monitoring. All right, you're in the circle. You're in. Please don't hate us for torturing you and your family for decades. But how am I supposed to forget about that? Well, I can't even lay down without them broadcasting all over my genitals, making me feel like they're crawling up my butt, attacking my neck and my lymph nodes. How am I supposed to forget about that when they do it all day, every day for a decade at a time without ever stopping? How am I supposed to forget about that when they're physically harming my body and my future? How am I supposed to forget about that? I'll get my own money. I can get my own money, but these people are dangerous. And how are the rest of everybody else overlooking this horrible thing that's going on? It's not me. It's not, oh yeah, Kevin, nobody's ever heard of this stuff you're talking about. That's why it's 10,000 people talking about it online. That's why my sub count's like about 9,000 now and been growing constantly, consistently for the whole time that I've had my channel, period. All right. Moving on. So when it comes to remote access of your devices and stuff like that, there's a lot of info, a lot of ways to do it. There's a lot of things going on with that. And these are definitely areas of interest when it comes to what we should be studying. The more you know about it, the more you know about it. And if you know a lot about it, then you could figure out what these gang stalkers are doing and find their streams and lead yourself to finding something that can get you your neural monitoring or make you have a lot of leverage in a much more powerful situation than sitting here not able to do anything about broadcast torture and somebody knowing what you're thinking and watching you take showers, molesting your genitals with broadcasts because they're weirdos. And this is the type of stuff we deal with every day, right? So, if you continue to think it through and if you go through the steps and the processes of being ignored or rejected by law enforcement, I've filed over 20 police reports locally. I've been to the GBI level, which is like the FBI at the state level. I've been to the FBI, I've been to the CIA. And when you're neglected by all of these agencies, basically 100% ignored, and it's going to make you feel hopeless. But there is hope because you have the capability to gain the knowledge to put yourself in a position that's better. Not to mention if you go to school for computer programming or if you learn it on your own. If you learn it a lot, then you're going to become very valuable. So you can get great jobs paying $100,000 or $200,000, $250,000 a year. And then you start to be in a financial position to make some serious waves about this stuff. Like I said, there's lots of information about remote access to cameras and remote access to your devices in general. And there's a lot of apps you can use to just do it yourself. But what we have to do is figure out how these gang stalkers are doing it to us. And like I said, they could do a lot with broadcast. Their satellite broadcast, when they're like a little hologram, I speculate strongly that they have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and radio frequency capabilities with this advanced broadcast technology. Okay, so meaning like if you had a walkie-talkie in the middle of the ocean, I think they could infiltrate that with a broadcast, with their satellite broadcast and the extra broadcast capabilities that would come with that. So remote are like virtual devices. Okay, so if you study virtual devices a little bit, you'll see that you can create a virtual iPhone, you can create a virtual Android, you can create a virtual MacBook, you can run Linux on your MacBook as a virtual machine, you could run Windows on your MacBook, you can run Mac on your PC, you can run Android on anything, could run on anything, can run on anything. That's how virtual devices can work. So I can have my MacBook sitting here and run a whole separate PC. And that's what I did for like one of my classes. It was a class that needed to use Access, which is the database software that's within the Microsoft suite. And so you can use Word and Excel and all of that on your Mac, but you can't use Access. So what I did was used VMware to get a version of Windows and run my virtual machine as Windows on my MacBook, and then I was able to use Access from there with that. So, and I did that personally. So I know these, and that's just like legit software that you're supposed to be able to do it that way. But with anything, they can do all of this stuff secretly on the under and stuff like that. Now, one person that I knew that I was close to back in the day that ended up becoming a gang stalker, and I watched the process. And they suddenly, without any prior computer experience or interest at all, they suddenly became an Android developer, which is nothing. I can become one. I am one, right? I signed up for it. It doesn't mean I'm any good at it or know how to do anything, but anybody could be one. But they were studying Android developer every day suddenly, and then suddenly they were showing me different stuff that they probably shouldn't have showed me. This person had a virtual Android uploaded onto their iPad, and every day they were studying Android developer stuff, and every day they had, this was somebody I was close to now, every day they had like Bluehost and Android developer and all this stuff in their history of things that they were looking at. And they also had a virtual Android that they had deployed on their iPad. All right. And so I thought, this person was trying to hide something maybe, or like what's going on. But what I learned later, it took me another couple years to figure out from dealing with other people that were doing the same thing. It took me a couple years that I realized, this is how they hide remote neural monitoring, anything neural monitoring. They hide it on the virtual device. And that virtual device can be installed on a physical device, or it can be hosted online somewhere like Bluehost or HostGator or wherever you have a hosting package. And then you can access that online. So you can basically log in to your virtual device, which is be like a whole nother device. So, the iOS 15 or 16 or whatever that you have on your iPhone and all of your apps, and that's your virtual device. It's a real device because it's installed on your physical hardware. So that's your device in total. Okay, but if you were to install another separate, allocate half the storage space and install a separate iOS onto the other half of your physical device, then you have a virtual device. So you have basically two softwares loaded on one physical device, and you could switch between. So you could do it that way. When it comes to storage, a lot of time, like I just cleared off my storage so I could do this video. And so while I do that, I check, and after I'm done doing that, there's still 54 gigs of 64. Yeah, I still got a small iPhone storage. I don't like to have a lot of physical storage. I used to like it, but then I realized I need to get all this stuff offline, because it's just hosting it all for them to use it however they want to. And it makes it more difficult for you to find things that they have hidden. If they got a 2 gig virtual machine hidden, it's going to be hard to find it if you got a terabyte. But if you got 64 gigs, it'll make it a little easier to keep up with what you actually have and what's taking up your space. But even if I delete every photo and video and everything off my phone, which I don't delete, I transfer. So you might want to look into getting something like this. This is a external hard drive, and I plug it in and on my laptop right here, and that comes up as the drive. And I'm able to transfer everything from my phone to the Photos app, from the Photos app to the hard drive, and then all of my stuff's offline, right? And when it comes to having stuff offline, on here, right, I feel like it's safe, right? Now, I don't think they have the capability to delete or alter files on a thing like this, but they might. But I'm pretty sure that they possibly don't. But if you plug it in, then yeah, they can access anything on it. And if it's something they don't want you to have, they're waiting. They're waiting for you to plug that in. They're just waiting. But this is just an older kind. You can get these really cheap now. Some of the newer kinds, I could compare. This is a newer kind, solid state. And I use this one for my time machine, right? So this was all my files, keep them off devices physically, and then I use this one for the time machine. As you see, the size difference is pretty significant, and this is a real nice one. By the way, if you want to find stuff like that and you're not really that familiar with it, up in the top portion of my channel page, you can see the link to my Amazon, and you can find all of the stuff that I like personally. You know, I'm not do it or don't, but because I don't really care. I don't really push this whole Amazon store thing. But if you know all the stuff that I buy and that I like personally, I usually will just add it to one of my lists for the Amazon store, so you could go and find it on there if you're not familiar with these type of things and get like the same type of stuff that I get. But anyway, you know, when it comes to all of that, virtual devices and all of that stuff, they can have all of that stuff anywhere and on the devices, or but one of the big things that they do is modification of existing apps. So if you'll go into your settings and storage, so it's like general iPhone storage, it's on an iPhone, general iPhone storage, and then scroll down and see what's taking up the storage. And when you look at the different apps, you might see that some of your apps, like you might find just an app that's normally, you know, 100 megabytes is like 4 gigs or something. And then you're like, oh, what is all of this information? And so what gang stalkers will do is modify an existing application to be their virtual device. So they could take something, they can add or remove capabilities, but if like something like a Gmail, you know, that already has a lot of capabilities, a lot of permissions and capabilities, and it's got a built-in browser and all these things, they can go in and just use that to run their live streams and as their virtual machine, basically, and they'll call it their app. It's my app on your phone. You know, and it's basically, it's your app that they've modified and given themselves a lot of permissions and authority to control your content, your services, and your physical device and everything. But there's on Apple desktop, there's an application called Apple Configurator 2. And with Apple Configurator 2, you can use it for like backing up and configuring different things. But one of the things you can do is if you now you have to make sure that you're not updated on your app. So for example, if my YouTube app on my iPhone is not updated, okay, so, and then I go into, plug my phone into my laptop, and then I go into Configurator 2, and then I can create a backup, and it copies like all your apps and all your information, everything. I can create a backup like that. And then if the application, whatever applications are not updated, it'll keep those versions in a temporary file. So if you go onto your Mac and find wherever, I forget where, but if you find wherever it keeps those TMP, those temporary files of those applications, and then you just basically move it, and you can change the file extension or whatever and move those files to somewhere that's not temporary, and then you have that version of that application. And if it's something that these gang stalkers have modified, then you're still going to need to understand like what you're looking at. But it's a direction and a possibility for you to find that they've modified an application, and you'll be able to see everything that they've done if you have the knowledge to understand what you're looking at. But it's a way to, it's like I said, they use applications and modify applications, and that's just a way to end up with the file of that applications. I forget exactly what they're called. I think they're IPA files is an Apple application installation file package. I think it's called an IPA. Don't get mad if I'm wrong. I forget, but it's called an APK for Android. Like if you wanted to install an application, the whole package bundled together is called an APK, and that is the installation package and everything to do with that application. So there's ways to get the IPA and the APK files. It's not easy, but what I just described to you using the Configurator 2 is one way to do that. And if it happens to be a modified application, then who knows what you could find. And it could definitely be the doorway to finding out a lot and getting your neural monitoring, or gaining the evidence to hold somebody accountable for a lot of these internet crimes or whatever. So, and ultimately gang stalkers, they might sweep remote neural monitoring and gang stalking under the rug to keep the world from finding out everything. But it wouldn't surprise me if some of these gang stalkers ended up getting charged with a whole lot of internet crimes and like account frauds and a lot of stuff like that, to be able to just say, yeah, we nailed them for something. Okay, are you happy with that? Okay, they're in prison, so for 10 years. So maybe they'll give you a secret settlement or something. Like, I don't know how this is going to play out, but it's just it's a real bad deal. So yeah, but gang stalkers like to modify applications, and a lot of times when too many applications are running, it's another thing that can cause your phone or device to get very hot, and that means that a bunch of gang stalkers have, each one of them have a different application modified to be their little virtual machine to run their stuff on your services on your device, and 10 of them are doing it, and everything's hot, and fans are blowing, and batteries are dying, and that's them again. And like I say, your storage could definitely be like full, even if it's nothing on your phone. Your store, they like to allocate a certain amount of your storage so they can do whatever they want to do and run it like it's their own. If you have more than half, then you can have something that they don't have, and they don't know. Oh, they're like collectors of your things, like your biggest fans. It's pathetic. With remote access, I looked into it a little bit, and you can maybe do some things in the accessibility settings of devices to set up certain remote accesses, but I would assume, and if I had to assume or guess what it is that they're doing, I would say that they have virtual machines running, whether it's a virtual machine itself or an application configured as a virtual machine. They probably are using a lot of stuff to do with Linux. They're probably using Linux. And most likely the version of that you're going to see, your interface is probably not going to show the settings and things that they have activated to be able to do remote accesses and streams and stuff like that. So you'd have to get advanced with all of that stuff. VPNs too, like they could use VPNs and do that kind of thing. Let me move on to photography. You see me posting crazy pictures all the time, and of course it doesn't look like HD, like, oh yeah, I can see all the people standing there and read the writing on their shirt. No, it's not like that. When I take pictures and I'm saying, hey, there's broadcast on my neck, you could like see an outline of some faces, or like a person, and seem like kind of through a dimension or something like that. But you have to remember, you're seeing broadcast waves, and you're capturing that. So I go into like something quick. I don't take a lot of time on it, like Snapseed or Photo or whatever, and just do some quick editing settings. I take like a minute on it just to bring out certain frequencies that help to see that a little better. I'm sure there's better ways, and I'm sure that certain type of cameras, whether it be full spectrum or infrared or whatever other kind of special cameras, maybe you have to have a very high refresh rate, like a quick shutter rate or whatever. So, I don't know. Maybe it has to have a certain sensitivity to different kind of lights. But, if someone were to do extensive research, like, I can't become an expert at everything. And I'm trying to do what I can do and still try to live my life in a way that's not completely miserable and consumed by these idiots and remote neural monitoring. I have a lot of things that I want to do in life and people that I love, and it's not all about these idiot gang stalkers. So I wish I had more time for it. But if you were to, figure out more about light spectrums and cameras and different types of specialty cameras and photography, and being able to see waves to see it as broadcast, then and see like what it actually is, but just in general, there's a lot of my pictures that I post that, you kind of got to see it a certain way. But there's plenty that you can just, obviously, you can see like people's faces on my body or whatever I'm taking the picture of. And these are gang stalkers that have connected to me on a neurological level using neural monitoring settings unconsensually to be able to have access to put their broadcast on my body. And at that point, they can penetrate my body or lurk around private areas or do whatever they want to hurt me or to exploit and invade my privacy. And it's just a very horrible thing. They can hurt you really bad with it. And it's just kind of for reference. And I'm hoping that one day, just a basic picture can run through a certain process and show it more clearly. And so that's why I post a lot of those pictures and stuff. And also because I don't always have the time to do videos. This video's been going on for an hour now. So in a couple semesters, moving on, in a couple semesters, I'm going to end up taking some more advanced programming classes. And also and a lot of those are required. And mobile app development is a class that I have to take, or that I'm going to choose to take out of the choose one of these that is required type of situation. So I'm looking forward to all of that. It does help a lot to learn things in a more formal way. It probably also helps and is probably a little faster to learn things on your own. Another thing I do is I go through now and then, I'll go in and do some of the Google developer activities and, earn the little badges and just, I've accepted the fact that this is a process. I'm in college for programming. I pay attention to this stuff. I think about it all the time. I experience things that they're doing, gang stalkers, on my devices. And a lot of things like this just comes together gradually. And it's going to be a process, and I've accepted that. And so I'm in it for the long haul. But meanwhile, while I'm in it for the long haul, I'm building support. And I'm also helping to put other people in the right direction. And I'm also putting myself in a better financial position, because I suspect it's going to be pretty difficult to find lawyers and stuff to want to get involved with all of this. I have to remain very public because I don't want to isolate myself in secrecy. And when I know something, most of the time I'll put that out there for you guys to know. And a lot of the reason for that is because 100 people knowing is better than just me knowing. If it ends up being something that they'll kill me over, at least a bunch of other people know now. Too late, cat's out of the bag. Hopefully they won't kill me. But, and when I say they, sure, these gang stalkers would probably try to kill me to keep from getting caught. But at a certain level, some more higher up people might want to step in and say, well, this is going to cause too much of a problem and we got to get rid of this guy. And so I don't know if something like that could happen. I know something like that could happen, but hopefully it won't. But yeah, I'm going to continue to learn programming and everything about it. And network stuff is pretty important too. I got some networking classes coming up, and I should also mention that I'm doing specifically a programming degree. But what I've learned that cybersecurity and like network stuff and web development and database administration and all these different subcategories of computer science, a lot of them have quite a few of the same classes, especially the lower level classes. And so when you learn one of them, like you could probably get the second degree for 30% less classes. And because you've already took those, and those can count towards another degree if they're the same classes. Like you can already have credit for that. So it might be, it's something that I'm interested in, is possibly taking a second degree after this one, or maybe even start double major, overlapping them, and getting 2 degrees, and then continuing after that even. This is the plan, bro. This is the plan. So it's just a little information to throw out there. the external storage, I went over that. You want to keep your stuff offline and safe as much as you can. If you plug it in to a device that has connectivity capabilities, then, and I've even had situations where a device didn't have connectivity capabilities, that after a few days or a week or so, they were finally able to get into that. And I've talked about that, where I had an old Mac Tower, and when I got it, I had added a Wi-Fi card and a Bluetooth card, but I took those out of it. I took those out so it had no connectivity other than the wired Ethernet, and there was nothing plugged to it. And I ended up pulling the modem out of it too. And so I was using it to stick memory cards and stuff in to try to go through some of the files, and I was finding stuff that was related to them that was really their files, like scripts that they had written, and a lot of important stuff. So they were pretty desperate, and after a little while, I don't know if they crashed one hard drive, but I didn't care. I was put another one in and kept on, and then I think they possibly used maybe a processing core to simulate a Wi-Fi signal, and where at some point they figured out a way to connect, and they started corrupting and disappearing files and stuff. So I had to turn that off. But one thing I was doing when I was doing that is I was duplicating a lot of things. So if I had a memory card with a bunch of files on it, I would try to get it duplicated before I would put one at risk by plugging it into any device. So especially a device with connectivity. So, and these days every device has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all that. So, but like I said, I used one that didn't, and over a course of time, they were finally able to figure out a way to get even into that device. So further proving that their satellite broadcast has a broadcast capability within itself to be able to do things even with devices that didn't even have connectivity. They were able to get into that and start to mess around with files and stuff. So like I said, I had files that were like scripts that they had written about, go through the network and pull this picture file from this device and pull it onto this device and run it through this filter, and then post it here on Twitter and or wherever. And it was like places where I don't even post stuff. So it was like I could see the whole process, and those type of script files, that's very important stuff, and again, I had to pull the plug and stop doing that. But I've got so many memory cards and hard drives and stuff put away that have those type of things on them, and pretty much you do too. And any device you used to have, don't get rid of your old devices. A lot of people, I'll trade in I trade in nothing. But it's got my neural monitoring, a bunch of gang stalker files on it. And when I decide that it's going to be turned off, it's going to be turned off quickly. And it's not going to be turned back on. I'm not going to give them a chance to eject all of their stuff off of there. And hopefully one day I can figure out a way to Faraday cage up my devices, or just become good enough that I can outdo them. I know it's pretty much impossible with their broadcast capabilities, but I have so much damning evidence against them, like actual scripts they've written and actual profiles they've modified and like used my actual online possessions and stuff like that. So, but also, you could find on Amazon, if you can't find it, you can find it through my Amazon link on my main page, on my homepage on YouTube, duplicator machines, where you could like slide a memory card or even a hard drive into a little device, and they're not very expensive. Like you could get one for $30 to $100 in that range, depending on how good or how many you wanted to duplicate or whatever. But you could slide one in, slide another in, and duplicate it. And then you got two. So then you got one to play with. And you can plug it into whatever you want to. You have a whole backup. So it's just always a struggle to try to figure out how to even dig into the evidence that you may or may not have obtained. So ultimately, configuring your stuff, it's a very big deal. One other thing too, a few years ago, I started learning web development before I started with college and everything. I started teaching myself, and I got good enough at it to create like web pages and like basically a website that can go from page to page and different stuff. And then I started to get to the point where I needed to be able to do something. So I needed to have a back end. And when you need to have a back end, that's like starting to use languages that, processing languages like PHP and stuff that can cause your computer to communicate with like a server and go back and forth rather than just all of it being right there coded into an HTML file. So I started getting into like local host and stuff like that. And those are good directions too. If you want to learn about that kind of stuff, all of this stuff is very important. But anyway, these are just some things to think about. I've been sitting here talking about it for an hour. I think I went over all just quick notes. None of this stuff is very in-depth or very advanced, but it's the direction that you need to be headed, and it's giving you kind of some insight into what their capabilities are and how all of this stuff works. So remote neural monitoring and EMF broadcast stuff, they can do whatever they want to you without any device or anything. It's because it's a satellite broadcast coming straight from the satellites. And that means that if you're 3,000 miles away from Florida to Washington State, they can still do whatever they want to you. And it's no different than being next door. It's zero difference than being next door, other than they can't physically see you as a human-to-human type of situation. So, and a lot of times when it's a lot of distance, it empowers them to act more erratically because they don't have the threat of being physically confronted in person. So, but yeah, it's satellite broadcast stuff. And if you turn off your phone, or if you get rid of your phone, and people will give you that advice, get off of the internet, get rid of your phone. And all that does is put you at a disadvantage where you can't even live in the times, and check your email or whatever. And like you have to be this person that can't look at the stock market or the news or check your social media or whatever. And I'm not going to be that person. And it's definitely, the internet is where it's all going down. These gang stalkers use the internet for every bit of it. They're accessing neural monitoring stuff over the internet. These interfaces, which based on your neurological broadcast frequency over the internet, they're accessing that somehow. So, but ultimately, they can do whatever they want to without the internet because of satellite broadcast. The internet just allows them to get into all of the settings and to do the live streams and to become publicly involved with gang stalking and all of that stuff. So anyway, that's it for now. I hope you guys can use some of this information and just take some of this advice and start to head down the right pathway so we can all share information and collaborate with things to do about them. And I want you guys to really have a better understanding of how they do the things that they do. So anyway, I'm out in the Midwest, for another couple days, I think, maybe another day or two. And then I'm going to be doing some other moves. So, but they're still attacking me every day, all day. So I'm just trying to get by and do what I can do. But thank you so much for watching. We're right at 9,000 subs on the channel. Thank all of you. It continues to grow. We continue to put this information out there. It's very embarrassing, and I hope certain people, that I know or work with or anything else don't find my YouTube channel, but ultimately I don't care. And, and I get tired of gang stalkers trying to have an effect on my life. So they can all go to hell, really. That's what I hope. So thanks for watching. See you guys.